What are your thoughts on levitate? I always found it weird, but wondered if it's something you did or did not want in the game. The basic spell line, I think, is fine. Ollie's not a big fan of levitate in sort of the EQ form. I think that ability to just be able to float forever like that is extremely broken, like powerful. And so I feel like it should be reserved for way later. That's like very high level. Ideas, essentially advancing it through like very short duration levitates, very limited, you know, basically allows you a form of safe fall, maybe a limited sort of levitate that gets progressively better, but with a steep drop off, that type of stuff. So I think with a lot of the abilities, one of the things that I'd love for us to explore is just the idea of taking some of those base concepts and stretching them out a fair bit. So over time, the progression feels a lot more, you know, it's all in the same spell line, but it feels like you're progressing. It should be non-combat only? I don't know. It's got to be that restrictive. But there could be a version where if you get hit, you drop. Ooh. What kind of hammer is this? Oh, it's rusty mace. I like that. I'm going to destroy this item. Man, I love seeing spell effects in the distance and stuff. That's so much fun. Oh, skeletal deacon. That sounds interesting. I like it. When we get the new sprites and stuff like that in and we do some more spell effects work, then it'll be even better. This deacon's no joke. I haven't really been paying full attention. I looked up at my health bar and was like, alright. MBGT says, I adore your interpretations of the Wood Elf. It's nice not having everything look exactly like the human. You can blame that on Goblin. Goblin was like, what about this take? And I was like, I don't know, Goblin. I'm not very comfortable with that. Goblin was like, no, really, it's good. Like, I don't know. What does everybody else think? That makes me nervous. We should hide here and let Zukin take care of that for us. And by take care of that, I mean pull every single one of them over to us. I mean, this guy's yellow to us. What is this developed in? C#. What more needs to be done with this newbie dungeon for it to be done? I'd say there's probably a more sort of detailed pass with regards to objects, environment, like geo. Probably going to be some geo modification, but overall it looks good on that front. Objects. We'll probably need to, I shouldn't say probably, full itemization pass, additional like layout changes as Nick just mentioned. We'll probably go through and look at, oh, that's pretty back there. Interactive objects, getting other systems online, so like the interactive objects, maybe some traps and things like that. Itemization will probably grow as we start to throw like quest items and other stuff like that on as well, so it needs to be tied back to the main city. Do you intend on having fire and ice giant? Midgard, yes, and you'll probably even see some desert giants. Not sure if there'll be sand giants. Looking forward to the roadmap update. I've got a note on my whiteboard. I just need to get it done. We're gonna change the format of the roadmap. It'll let you know sort of what we've just done, and nah, I'm not gonna blab about it too much. You'll see. Given the way that games are data mined these days, do you plan on implementing any kind of obfuscation to prevent itemized details such as weapon, yada yada yada, making it to the Awakening Moment spot? Yeah. So, first of all, most of that will reside in our database, not the client. So, there won't be like an easy method of extraction other than to just play and get it. Oh, these feel nice. This is feeling deadly, which is nice. Oof. What is that behind me? Is it another paladin? Oh man, these heals. And I'm not using slam in an intelligent manner. I've just been randomly clicking buttons instead of actually using my abilities to the best of my ability. All right. We finally got killed. That was a long time in the making. 1 hour and 56 minutes, and that's our first death. This game is too easy. Oh my god, look at my sad little body. That was kind of sad seeing me come around. The corner. Whoop, what's going on here? Oh. That scared the shit out of me, Nick. Is that, wait, that's not Nick. Who is that? Is that Pattis? Ah, he scared me. So the goal is for us to be able to, or for us to continue to bootstrap the way we have been. We'll look at what our needs are, right? Like we want to try to get through proof of concept. If we can continue to develop proof of concept without like heavy expenditures to outsourcing or contractors, then what we'll look at is how much content do we actually have in proof of concept. Our proof of concept is actually pretty big, but if we find that because of the approach that we're taking, we're able to make enough content, which has kind of been the goal. You're looking at the fidelity of content that we have right now, right? And so if we find that we're able to make this kind of content at a reasonable rate and provide a decent initial experience, then what we may do is move into something that is more of an early access and use, you know, the money that does come in to both compensate the team in different cases to an appropriate degree while investing in expanding the throughput or bandwidth that we have as a team through outsourcing. So we've talked to at least one really good outsourcing studio that did some assets for us that nail our style in the past, and talked a little bit about basically arrangements that we could potentially make once we're further along. So our goal is to get further along, and then you know, hopefully they continue to be available. And if not, then hopefully we can find someone similar. And inevitably, as we're getting to the point where we're looking at, you know, getting more of the game done, then we'll also look at the best way to expand our capacity in terms of team and things like that. Oh, Nick shrank. Now he's almost as small as I am levitated. Now he's a tiny skeleton. That sit animation looks good on the skeleton. So, I mean, the other thing that we could do, potentially, we may see is, like, the goal is to have a game, but not have the whole game, right? And so, when we get to a point where we have the game, then the question is, does it make sense to go early access and get, you know, basically money from the community in that way? Because, well, now we've got a thing. We're not stringing you along. We're not saying, hey, you know, we're not doing core feature development. We're not doing core gameplay development. Yeah, we're always going to be tuning and twisting things around a bit, and, you know, like, I don't know why I said twisting things around, but be tuning and polishing and shit. But it's essentially just improving on something that's tangible, and then making more of it, and we'll have a pretty good understanding of what our target is in terms of quality, and the amount of it, etc. And so it's easier to talk to outsourcers or other people. If we find that we feel that it makes sense to not take your money, we still want to have people in playing with us, right? Because it just hardens the game. It makes sure that all of our support systems, like reporting and customer service tools and server stability and all that other stuff, is working well. But we may find that we don't want to take money, but we do want to pursue some sort of investment, right? Like once we have the proof of concept, as Keith is saying, like the vertical slice, then maybe we talk to somebody who is in alignment with what we're trying to make, understand sort of what the deal would be financially and where our priorities are, etc. Thanks, Nick, for paying better attention to my inventory than me. You're hungry. You're hungry. And I'm not even looking. Yeah. So we'll look at those different options. But the main priority is having a game. What are my thoughts on indie publishers? Devolver, Team 17. Team 17 I don't know as well. I like Devolver a lot. They're inspiration. Mike, one of the founders of Devolver, I think he's still part of Devolver. I know he's got a new company that's doing games to help improve mental health, like that are kind of like medical. Well, they're just meant to improve mental health. That's their like mission statement. Anyways, Mike's always been a super solid guy. I met him when I lived in Austin, and he's a good guy. And so, yeah, somebody like that. I mean, I would love for us to eventually become like Devolver. So NWC, you know, being able to invest in interesting indie teams at some point would be really badass. But for the time being, I think if we find the right partner, the other thing too is, guys, it may not seem like it. I mean, depending on what, you know, MMO content creators you talk to or whatever, you watch. For the scale of game that we're making and the type of game that we're making, you know, I think when people generalize about MMOs and are like, oh, there's no way you can make an MMO for, you know, less than $30 million and blah, blah, blah. They're really talking about like AAA, big team, bigger budget games, right? For us, when it comes down to it, for the kind of content that we're making, for the art style that we have, for what we've already got in place, when it comes time to scale our content, we don't need what I think a lot of people assume you need in order to pull it off. If you guys are generally, if you think we're heading in the right direction, keep in mind that like a lot of this stuff, you know, the vast majority of it was it's placeholdery, first pass. I mean, hell, the weapons that you see, like I said earlier, the weapons that you see I made in an afternoon, and I'm not an artist. The spell effects you see, with the exception of a few that like Nick made, again, we banged those out on stream sometime last year pretty quickly, and I'm not an effects artist. It was just getting the placeholder stuff in, and then once it's in, we're gonna polish this stuff up pretty quickly, right? Like, so the project's been more about like having a do-it-yourself sort of ethic and being willing to be like, oh, you know, before we had Pattis and Zukin and Goblin on a team, you know, before we had artists on a team, it's like, I'm just gonna make this shit real quick and let's go. And then now we have stuff to polish, right? Same thing with, you know, animations. We're starting to get more of that in. Stuff that I worked on. Clearly I'm not an animator. I'm not trying to be critical of any of the other ones, but so the zone, yeah, so Pattish just said the zone that we're running around in, which you've only seen part of, was 23 hours worth of work from his end so far. Too hot said Danny DeVito elf baby. Is that what you think I am? I think that's accurate. Danny DeVito from It's Always Sunny, though. Will there be a first-person mode? Yeah. I'm so tiny. I'm mainly just... I'm looking at knees. If I was a little bit taller, I'd be looking at his, I'd be looking at his pelvis. So... Nikon's red to me. Curry. Well, that looks, Zukin. Goblin. The human sit from a gnome point of view looks a bit. We should probably avoid that and delete the VOD. But we're doing it live, folks. This is how you find things like that. What's your favorite race? What class will you be playing at launch? Favorite race, gnome? We'll have to see on class. Lighting does so much in here. I love it. What is NWC? The name of our company. Niche Worlds Cult. Yeah, really, I like the soundtrack. I like how we sort of did the style on this one for this. So I hate to burst anybody's bubble here in chat watching tonight. Four levels in 2 hours and 33 minutes will not be our target. All right, so torments your target's mental state, causing 5 points of magic damage, decreasing their intelligence, wisdom, charisma, and mana regen by 2. 2-second cast time. So yeah, it's 62 hit points. I was about to say he felt better. I mean, you know, the heals definitely helped. There's a lot of healing going on. I'm assuming mobs aren't leashed and training will be a thing. Line of sight splitting, root CC, all domain staples, pulling supply, correct. Yep. That is a good assumption. Rev said, great that you have a full scale dungeon for starter levels. Yeah, and I think slowing the pace down and allowing for more experience both outside the dungeon and then driving more time in dungeon and getting more opportunity to sort of extract value from the dungeon will be nice, right? It'd be nice to be gearing up as part of this without out leveling it. But also without just like the gear flying on to us. So a little bit of gearing up and likely some gearing up and getting coin and reagents and other tradable, sellable stuff. So I'll have to look at the experience gain in these early levels. And Nick said I've got 2 stacks of bone chips turning. I need to loot up more. I only got 12. Kick and mesmerize. Mem the stuff. Move that here. Move kick there. Have the named been given cool drops already? I don't think so. Will magic weapons be a thing? They will be a thing. Dargus said, personally I'd like to see the spell level affect the VFX. If a level 60 casts a level 1 spell, this spell should still look like a level 1 spell. Yeah, makes sense. We were talking about, oh goodness. We were talking about progressive effects, but T-pose spell. I could see if their arms kind of like waved a little bit. maybe levitate them off the ground a little bit. Will there be an animation for provoke? I've got a taunt animation that could be reused for provoke. Zukin, did you just shadow step at that dude? On something like the shadow step, we should blink you out and have you reappear. And if we do that with spell effects, then maybe it'll look a little less like you're just warping. Oh, I'm medding. I'm medding. How did I get started in game development? Through customer service. I really wanted to work on EverQuest, so I became a guide so that I could meet GMs, so that I could become a GM, so that I could then figure out what it is that I could do in game development. I think that is the most abridged I've ever told that story. Nick, is minor spell shield self only? Yeah, okay. Makes sense the way it was written. The spell description is very specific. Can players expect that level of detail to be in game? Unsure at the moment. I'd like to discuss that with the team a bit. Yeah, I think most people like the level of detail. I just there's something nagging about it to me. Combat formulas will not be revealed. No. Oh jeez. Wrong way. Honestly, that's immersion breaking to me. Here's my magical spell I've read and scribed into my spellbook, but I have no earthly idea what it possibly does. Above and beyond just being obnoxious design, Dargeth said. Yeah, I mean, there's a certain amount of information that I think when I was first thinking about information presented in game, it's like, oh, it's kind of interesting to sort of figure some of that stuff out. But the more I've been looking at just sort of RPGs in general and stuff, I don't know. We may find that certain things like, you know, having that be not providing that information directly doesn't really provide much value. So we'll see. It's late. We'll figure it out. All right. I told you I was going to show you the new trees before I logged off. What time is it? What time of day is it? Looks like it's morning time. Yeah, 6 a.m. Perfect. So, Pattis has been working on different varieties of trees using the new textures that we have. If you want the full breakdown on sort of the logic behind the different styles that we've tried out, be sure to check out his recent stream. You can check the VOD here on Twitch. I'm not sure if he's posted it to YouTube yet, but we started with like the original sort of 4, essentially it's 2 placards, and then have attempted some other styles. Yeah, it's a bit challenging. So when we first looked at these, when we first looked at the trees, I think just base style, this is like the old classic, just 2 cards crossed. I forget, you said it's what, 3 or 4 cards? I forget what it is. Just the main point of feedback, and then we've got sort of the more WoW style where it's, but the shadows, so the shadows on this one are so good. You know, that's just, I really like the shadows. And it's nice because it eats up a lot of space with the shadows when the day-night cycle is not moving so crazy fast. You know, you can picture if you got a bunch of these around, it really helps fill in the scene a good bit. This one's not, you know, it's not bad. It's just that during different times of day, you get a little bit different look, especially when the sun gets right over it. So the challenge though is the other thing that I noticed is this has a fairly limited just sort of black spot. It just gives a lot of these nice little stripy shadows. I don't know how big a deal it is. Whereas these wind up being kind of limited in that regard. And again, I might be making too big a deal out of that aspect of it, but I just think that when we got a bunch of these, they're just, again, maybe I'm just being a weirdo, but I really like, especially, you haven't seen it happen yet, but like when some of the mobs, like the bats and other things are flying through here, I can thin those out. Let's try it with 2 planes, cause a more solid shadow. Okay, cool. But generally speaking, I mean, they look good. I think the flat planes there look a little off. But I'd be happy with either one of these styles, just kind of generally looking at it. I do like the canopy part of this. Like when you look up, because we mentioned it, we talked about it a little bit in Slack. It's like thinking ahead to how forests and other types of trees may work. I was like, why does I looked over at Nick and then looked at the skeleton. I was like, I think Nick's really right. The skeletons are just way too small. Freaking giraffe. Alright guys, I'm gonna wrap up. I'm gonna wrap up and go to bed. It's past my bedtime. Wind up getting up early. Thank you for hopping on the stream. I appreciate you guys sticking around all night. All of the new folks, welcome.